These 3 and a bit things are going to kill Call of Duty. And the good news is, I know how to fix them. The bad news is, I don't own Call of Duty. I'm not some multi-trillion-dollar company, some big corporation who just wants to see the company grow and fleece your pockets for every little last penny that you've got. No, I'm just a fan of the game. I'm somebody who's been playing from the very start, from the very first Call of Duty, and somebody who has, for a long time, enjoyed playing Call of Duty, but right now, I don't really want to play it. I don't want to play. In fact, until today, I'd not played the Season 3 Reloaded update at all. I had some other stuff going on at the start, which meant I had a couple of days where I couldn't get on. And in that time, I saw all the tweets, all the favourite content creators that I like watching play the game. I saw all the problems that they were having. And I just thought, I haven't got time for that. I genuinely just didn't want to play it. And that has continued all the way through. In fact, I'm going to chuck a gameplay up that I did today just for something to watch while I stick myself up in the corner here. Off we go. But I'm going to talk about the 4 things, well, there's 3 things and 1 major contributing factor to why this game is going to die. And I don't say that lightly. I've said there's been problems with this game. I've said that before. I've said they needed to be fixed. But rarely do I say that Call of Duty or Warzone are dying. But I genuinely think that is the case at the minute. I genuinely think that Warzone certainly is on its way out. The game we've known and loved, it's on its way out, and it's not going to come back. Certainly not in its current iteration, not in the way we've known it. So what is the single biggest factor as to why myself and millions of other people don't want to play Warzone right now? And it's the sweat. It is absolutely the sweat. Tell me what you think about when you think about loading up Warzone. Is it about having fun? Is it about you finish your day at work or college and you just want to chill out and just escape from the problems, the real problems you've got for a while? Or do you think about going in and having a roll up your sleeves and have a warm up before you get started? You're still probably going to get destroyed for any number of reasons in the game that are largely out of your control. 9 times out of 10 at least anyway. When I think of playing Warzone, I think I have to be absolutely locked in every single time. And even then, I still get stomped on the vast majority of the time. And the reason for this is Warzone and Call of Duty are trying to appeal to absolutely everybody. But in doing so, they're appealing to no one. Well, I'm not going to say no one, a very few number of people compared to what they should be doing. And something that's really driven home how much this is affecting people is the rise of casual BR. People absolutely love casual BR. I thought it was going to be successful. I thought it was going to be like a lot of people would enjoy going in, having a muck around. You do like a, use it as like your warm up, like play area, like your sandpit sort of area before you and your squad or whatever go into like normal BR and then have like a little bit of a more serious game, but you're like all sort of loosened up by then. I thought it would be really small numbers of players that would play casual BR as like their main mode. But what I'm seeing all over social media, on YouTube and stuff, is this is stealing the player base of Warzone. And I say stealing. Stealing suggests that it's taking the player base. A lot of people have come back since Verdansk, but a lot of those people are purely playing casual BR. So it's brought them back, but it's not brought them back to normal BR. There's a significant percentage of people who were in normal BR who had pretty much had their fill of it, but just through sheer stubbornness, probably a bit like myself, didn't want to quit but had no better option. And now they've got casual BR, and that is absolutely giving them an option. So loads and loads of people are quite happy going in and shooting bots and just having a totally mellow time and getting to get like their 15, maybe 20 minutes of pretty much guaranteed gameplay before they then have to encounter like a sweaty team is generally what happens. Rather than Warzone, where you go in like normal BR, you're playing unofficial ranked mode. So you have to go in there locked in, dialed up to 10, like sweating out before you've even landed. I mean, if I've got this gameplay going in the background, you'll see like I've got like 3 gunfights on the go before I've even hit the deck. It is crazy. And then every decision is absolute life or death. Do you get stuck in or do you have a quieter game? But then the risk is either you go a bit gung-ho, and then there's very, very little chance of you winning a game, or you camp it out, but then the risk is you're going to get to the end circle, like the last 10, with 1, maybe 2 kills, and then you're just going to get blitzed anyway. And all you've done is play hide and seek for 20 minutes. And depending on your point of view, that's just not fun. I generally go for the first one. I go for the one where you're sort of getting in the region of 10 kills per game, but pretty much always die. But the point is, it is just an absolute sweat fest. And because of SBMM, and because of the fact that you're matched with people of your own skill level every single time, it always feels like that. And what's even worse is it means you can't play with your pals. Because unless you're all like of one hive mind, all completely on the same level, generally all pretty cracked, you can have a terrible time in team game modes. Because the SBMM gives an overly heavy weighting to having like 1 or 2 decent players on your team, and it means the weaker players just aren't going to keep up. And so as a squad, you're just absolutely going to get fried by a team of 4 people who pretty much know what they're doing. That's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the sweat. And how do we solve that? Well, there's a couple of things. One, they've got casual, which is great, and I'm suggesting keep casual. Because there's genuinely some people who will only play casual, and if you take it away, they're going to quit their game. I've seen it all over YouTube comments, like, it's true. All the people I used to play with, they're all playing together, and they're all playing casual. And if casual goes, they're all going to quit. And as long as you can keep them in the game, there's a chance they might get better. There's a chance they might occasionally try regular BR. But taking modes away and getting rid of players who otherwise won't play is nonsensical. You've got to keep casual BR. People are enjoying it, keep it. The main issue is there's then nowhere for people to go to from casual BR. Normal BR is ranked mode, but without the label. Okay? Now, we had ranked mode brought in very briefly recently, but that's already been taken away. Now, I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. But what we need is we need a casual mode. We need normal BR without SBMM, without the bots, and a normal range of experience with not so great players, okay players, and a couple of sweaty demons in there, because that's the sort of the pyramid of the player base. And then ranked mode for like the super uber cracked out players to play, for them to sort of grind and enjoy. And if we had those 3 experiences working genuinely, legitimately, and working well, people would find their own sort of mode and mellow out into those modes and enjoy them. And we would have a healthy player base. A healthy player base combined with those 3 modes, and I think that would genuinely sort the sweat out a bit. Because there's loads of investigation pieces have gone into how SBMM works and how it's supposed to work, and Activision will tell you that having SBMM ruins the game, but we've seen people debunk it largely, and what we're seeing right now is clearly it's debunked it, because they've debunked it themselves, because the game's been absolutely dying, and they've had to bring back casual BR, because the regular BR, even with SBMM, wasn't casual enough for the people it was trying to protect, in theory. So problem 1, the game is too flipping sweaty, alright? The solution? 3 separate game modes without SBMM, chin the SBMM off, 3 separate game modes and a healthy player base, and that will sort itself out. I'm confident of it. Problem 2, cheaters in the game. It's absolutely rife. The worst I saw it, personally, was the end of Verdansk. Like the end of days of Verdansk. Genuinely, it was horrific. I think loads of people for a long time have been saying, bring Verdansk back, just roll it all back, go back to OG Warzone. But that's absolutely rose-tinted glasses. People have completely failing to remember what the cheating was like. It was ridiculous. You couldn't play a game without cheater paranoia. So even if you weren't getting cheated on, which you often were, the cheating was so bad that you couldn't have a single gunfight or losing a gunfight without then having to sort of overanalyze, was it a fair fight, were they cheating, were they not cheating, blah blah blah. And so even in fights where you have had a fair fight, when you die you just can't accept it, and it just ruins the whole thing for you. But the point here being that Call of Duty just haven't had a grip on it ever. The game is just inherently not geared to deal with cheating. It's not built into the code, or they've not been able to add it into the code. We got the launch of Ricochet back in like Warzone 2, whenever it was. Ricochet, right from the very start, it was clear it was doing nothing. I think I made a video on it, like one of my earlier videos over a year ago. It can be bypassed. People can essentially just load the game up without Ricochet being enabled or being able to detect those cheats. And if you think you're safe on console, that's simply not true, because there's cheating on console as well. I'm not going to discuss it here, but there's ways people have been able to load up on console, or at least into console lobbies, and have cheats enabled. And so that's been proven. It's less common, but it happens. The anti-cheat is absolutely unfit, completely unfit, and it needs sorting long term. Now, it's easy to say it needs sorting, but how can they do it? Two ways they can do this. I said I had the solutions. These are legitimately it. One, if at some point they do a wipe of this game, they do need to do a, from the ground up, better iteration of the anti-cheat. And again, one of the things I'm going to talk about later will hopefully facilitate this, but they need to have a better anti-cheat baked into the game at the very basic level, so that there is simply no way of evading it or getting around it, or there's always a way of getting around anti-cheat, but they need to make it that it's just way more effective than it is currently. So that's part of it. One, much better baked in anti-cheat with a new version of Warzone. And then two, and this is going to be unpopular or a hot take as some of the kids might call it, but they need to start charging for Warzone. Now, I know that's not going to be a popular decision with everybody, and some people would simply refuse to pay it, and I'm not suggesting they charge much money, perhaps like $30, £30, something in that region. It needs to be not so that it's basically a big money-making exercise for Call of Duty and it's going to cost the players loads of money, but it needs to be enough to act as a deterrent for the cheaters. So though Ricochet clearly isn't good enough, it does let the cheaters through. It does detect cheats. It just doesn't do it as quick as it should, or as often as it should. But when it does detect cheats, the biggest issue with the cheating is that the cheaters can just go and create a new account. So there's nothing stopping anybody. If they get caught, they just go and create a new account again. It's a bit like you've got a fire at a gas station and you're just trying to, put it out with your blanket or your hose, but you've not turned a petrol tap off first. Like, the cheaters are just going to keep coming in until you stop them being able to come in. It doesn't matter how many you catch or get rid of. So you need to stop this whole thing where they can create new accounts. And for me, I think the most effective way, £30 price tag. People talk about hardware bans, whether they want to do that or not, I don't know. But if you create a $30 price tag on the game, then, certainly if you're some 13-year-old cheater who's just got bored and decides you want to go cheating on Warzone that weekend, yeah, you might do it. But yeah, you might well get banned, and then you're not going to be coming back and doing it next week because it's going to cost you $30 to buy the game again. Or you might think twice about doing it in the first place because you don't want to lose your access to Call of Duty if you're feeling like just giving cheating a go one day. So the second biggest problem was cheating. First solution, better baked in anti-cheat with a brand new iteration of Warzone. And two, they need to stick a $30 price tag on it or something similar. One thing I thought, like, to sweeten the deal with the pricing is if they charge like $30 for Warzone, but you could maybe have like a $50 version and it's unlimited Battle Pass access. The third biggest issue, and why this game is absolutely going to be for the guillotine, it's the servers. It is past the day where these servers are fit. They are just not up to the job at all. And perhaps when we jump to Warzone, there's bigger demand on the servers, and they made a bit of a leap there, but then they've just not kept up with the developments of the game. But essentially, we're running at 20 tick servers, they're called 20 hertz servers. So 20 times per second, the player and the server will talk to each other and go, where are we at? Where's the player? What's he doing? Okay, yeah, that. And to make sure it's the same, it's synchronized basically, so that what is on the computer screen in front of you is the same as that's on the server, and they talk 20 times a second. Now, the argument is that that's just not fast enough, and I'm a big believer of this, especially with things like omni movement and the pace of the game and the skill of the people playing it. 20 hertz is up to 50 millisecond delay just from one player to the server in the middle. So when you've got the player on the other side, you're talking about 50 milliseconds to the server, 50 milliseconds to the other player, 50 milliseconds to the server, 50 milliseconds to the other player. We're talking about easily a 200 millisecond delay in terms of what's going on between the two computers in a game where a TTK is like 600 milliseconds. Like, what are we talking? How is that okay? How is that acceptable? And it's not, is the answer. And there's like clips of it all over the internet of people like dive around a corner into cover and then they die like around the wall. It's probably happened to you. Let me know if it's happened to you. It's certainly happened to me in a game. It seems to be quite bad at the minute, but I think Omni movement at Black Ops 6 has shown it up to be the worst it's been. So word on the street is that with the launch of Season 3, Call of Duty rented a load of extra servers as part of ensuring that we had a smooth launch and why there wasn't like any problems with the servers when the game first launched. And then when we went to Season 3.5, they basically ceased that rental of those extra servers. And so with the game, I don't know if you've seen it, but the game's been crashing all over the place. Some people have said it's down to cheating. Call of Duty have said it's not down to cheating, it's just down to, well, that only leaves them, isn't it, really, and their rubbish servers. But the point being that this is potentially where they're at, money-wise. They'll throw 3,000 bundles at you per week, but essentially once they've had their Verdansk return, they're now turning all the servers off. It's like, all right, we've got you, we brought you back, and now you're hooked. We've got your hooks in you. We don't care about paying for the servers till I play the game properly. So what's the fix here? They spend some money on servers, you cheapskates. They're all happy to take your money for your 420 bundles for 420 week or 420 month or whatever it is, or it's just generally 420 all over here with Seth Rogen sponsorships. But just spend some money on the servers. Improve the volume of them, improve the tick rate, just make it a better experience because it fundamentally affects how the game plays to the point where you're just not playing the same game as your opponent quite often. And I don't want to bang on about this too much because I've talked about this before in another video, but it's really fundamental to the experience and it's just not good enough. Genuinely, it's just not good enough. And this one just does come down to money. They need to do better. Stop being so cheap. Right. And then our last point, our half point, is the bugs. The bugs that are rife in this game that just keep coming back. Like, how long do we get to play the game without it having issues? I mean, certainly, how often do they do an update and they don't introduce more issues than they actually fix? Or they don't introduce more issues than the sort of improvements they make? When Season 3 of Verdansk dropped, everyone was shocked because they released the Season 3 update, Verdansk came back, and give or take, it ran pretty well. It ran pretty well. There weren't that many bugs. They clearly, properly, like designed and tested it behind closed doors before it launched so that it was all good. There'd obviously been, big meeting, high level up. Don't mess this up. The graphs are all pointing way down. Verdansk is our one ticket to get this right. If you screw this up, like some of you people are out of a job, basically. That's what it feels like. And they put everything into it, and nothing was happening on Big Map for so long while they put all their eggs in one basket and getting Verdansk right. And they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. But we've had one half season, and we've got to Season 3 Reloaded, and they've already managed to introduce a load of bugs. I've not fully researched them, but just off the top of my head, I just wrote down a little list of all the ones that I'm aware of. Like I say, I've not been playing them, but this is just things I've heard of. But there's been duplicate loadouts when you kill an enemy, so loadout just drops. There's been you've been able to drop weapons in the pre-game lobby and then drop in for the actual game proper and then pick your guns up. I've seen footage of people glitching under the map for like the billionth time ever. How is that still a thing? There's been a thing where they've affected the res time for teammates in games, so like reses are taking so long that you don't stand a chance without getting blitzed before another team pushes you. There's been a way of like glitching perks, so you get duplicate perks, or you've been able to get perks you shouldn't have got in your loadout. And then like the SR in ranked mode wasn't tracking. The whole point of ranked mode basically wasn't working, the core fundamental of it, so they had no option but to turn it off. How bad is it when they introduce a whole game mode ranked, which is supposed to be a big thing, and it just fundamentally wasn't working, so they've had to turn it off again. Now there's been talk, and maybe there's fair talk, but there's been talk from some people, suggestion of just turn Season 3.5 off, like go back to the Season 3 launch. All the changes they've done, just undo them, roll it back to the start of Season 3. But the point of this is, we just shouldn't be in this situation. And why are we having to put up with it? Why are we having to put up with it? Like, if this was a paid game, the only reason, I think, is why you even entertain putting up with this rubbish is because it's technically, it's a free-to-play game, but everybody's spent money at some point on a battle pass, pretty much. So many people have spent tens, hundreds of dollars in the store. It's free to play in a way if you're really strict with it, but loads of, the vast majority of players, I'd say, have paid money on this game in some way, shape or form. But only the guise of free to play is what makes you sort of less annoyed with all this rubbish and why you think it's an okay service to put up with. Personally, I just don't think it is. They want to go by this live service model instead of just having a game for the year, but then they don't deliver the service. If you're an older Call of Duty fan, you'll just remember the old Call of Duties where you had the game, came out for a year, before like the internet was crazy fast, like you had your disc, you loaded up, and then there were maybe like a couple of map packs you'd get through the year, but fundamentally the game stayed the same. But that meant that it worked. It meant like the guns were the same, but it meant you had a whole year to progress them. The meta didn't change, none of this stuff. You just had a working thing for the year and it worked. And that's clearly just not the way the live service model has been going. It's live service without the service. And what's the issue with this and how do we fix it? So ultimately, I think there's just a lack of bandwidth, a lack of capacity for the developers to be able to do the design and then properly test it before they launch. And I think that's objectively a fact, because if they had been properly testing the season 3.5 update, then we won't be in this situation. If it was properly tested, they would have found all of these bugs, or at least most of them. It clearly just hasn't been properly tested, so we shouldn't be in this scenario. But how do you fix that? Well, you've got two options. You can either spend more money on more testers, or you can create a scenario where they don't need as many testers. And personally, what I'm saying as a solution is to create the situation where the testing is easier to implement. And I think having Warzone separated from multiplayer creates that situation, because by having Warzone as one game where you're just constantly building on the same game and keeping its own trajectory, I think that means they're not having to work in tandem with a multiplayer game and all the balancing issues and the way they all communicate and the way, this year we had Omni Movement come out and next year we might be having jetpacks and warring and all that stuff, and you've got to deal with all that stuff. Even if like Warzone has got different movement mechanics and different perks to multiplayer, but yet you've still got to keep them balanced because they all work together in the same ecosystem. Cut them off, cut the umbilical cord, separate the Siamese twins, let Warzone be its own thing, just support that in its own entity for people who want to play Warzone and give it its $30 price tag, and then have multiplayer. But then don't rinse people for the price of multiplayer, keep that like $60 or whatever, but then make that like absolutely singing and all dancing and fully embrace what it is for that year without having to balance the two and compromise all this sort of stuff. So if they want to make Call of Duty this coming year, if they want to make it jetpacks and a wall run and all that kind of stuff, go crazy, have it out in space, like do whatever you want to do, have that freedom to do that with the multiplayer for that year, have that sort of originality and variety with the game, and just leave Warzone to do Warzone. Stop trying to link the two together. And I get it, because from a business point of view, you want to drive your sales of one with the other. I don't know whether it's the cart leading the horse or what, but whether more Warzone or multiplayer is the biggest seller and which one sells what, but they just need to be separated because it just doesn't work together, clearly, from any point of view. And when I talked about cheaters earlier, having the anti-cheat built in to Warzone on its own, they need a brand new Warzone. That's what I would suggest if they're going to do a new Warzone, if this isn't the end of Warzone. But who knows? I think if they keep on with the current trajectory, if you don't fundamentally change something, this is it, folks. This is it. I don't know about you. I just don't want to play this game at the minute. I'm not anti-Warzone. I'm not anti-Call of Duty. I bought Call of Duty this year. I bought Black Ops 6 on Steam, and it just plays terribly. So I don't play multiplayer because I'm forced to play it on Steam, and it's awful. So I play Warzone on Battle.net, but then Warzone's got its own issues, as I've talked about. The 3.5 biggest problems with Warzone and how to fix them. But do they care? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on it all. Are you playing Warzone at the minute? Are you playing multiplayer even? If not, why not? I've given you my thoughts on it and my potential ways to fix the game. But for now, I'm out.